Red dot.
The dot is red.
Yes.
True.
Okay.
Well, good morning, and thanks for coming in and see us today. We've had an opportunity to visit with you all already as a partnership team. You know, you and I already know each other, and I want the partners to meet you. But this is kind of our formal process as we look to build this executive leadership team for the new WBOK. And we'll be spending some time with you this morning talking about our general manager position. It's the first position we'll hire. It's the most important position we'll hire. It's a position that will help us work with us on hiring our positions after this one. And you already know a lot of this because we spent some time with you already. So kind of the partners will kind of ask some questions of you. It looks like you have some materials to share with us as well.
Yes.
That we look forward to going through with you. And that's kind of an opening, but if anyone else wants to say anything to kick us
Cleveland
off.
probably is giving you an update on where we are, but we are in the process. We have not taken ownership of the station yet. We still have to get all the FCC process completed. So we anticipate that being, a few months, I would think. But we would like to identify this leadership position actually first and foremost as early as possible. In fact, our view is even though Wendell is not here, if we can get the candidate that we want today, next week our plan was to have, we've begun scheduling interviews for program director. And we would love to have our general manager even participate in that, if that's possible. So I think you know a little bit of our vision for the station, and we're three of the four owners with Wendell on camera there being the fourth one, and we're ready to go, I think. Otherwise, did I miss anything?
Good.
No,
No.
there you
I
go.
think you're pretty familiar with everything, so.
And so I think what we'll do at our time with you is I see you brought some things, so I think the best thing is to allow you the floor to take us through what you brought us.
Okay.
And then, because like we don't want to get into asking questions that will then be redundant, that will be explained in here. So we'll let you kind of make your remarks and presentation to us, and then we'll have some questions for you.
Okay. Sounds good. So the first thing in this packet is just basically to show some examples of
Why
things
is mine all
that I've
upside
done.
down?
Yeah, mine-
Well, that's how they're all upside down because the resume printed portrait as opposed to landscape.
I'm not gonna hold that against you.
Right, I'm not an engineer. But that's my updated resume. The one you have does not have my last work experience outside of iHeartMedia in terms of radio experience. So I wanted to make sure that you could see what I did with the radio station in Atlanta, which was Power 92.3.
Wait, so
Wait,
the
where
one,
is it?
Right there.
iHeart New Orleans?
Yes, it's at the very top.
okay, but then you took out some stuff, right? You took out.
Yes, I did. I took out some of the stuff that I felt wasn't really as pertinent to the general manager position. My experience in communications, as I've said, is pretty extensive because I started in public relations, went into government affairs and issue management, and then kind of was thrust into media unexpectedly, starting in television and then moving into radio. So I thought that the radio experience definitely was the most pertinent to what we would be discussing today.
Yeah.
So like I said, I added my experience with Power 92.3 Jams, which was a startup station in Atlanta that one of my former managers had gone to work with the owners to create a footprint.
I'm
and
confused. I'm
I don't
confused. So
see
you-
that
so
one.
Yes,
Yeah, on the new resume, where's the power?
Yeah.
Uh-oh, now if the wrong thing printed, I'm just gonna be embarrassed. Yep, looks like it did.
The wrong thing printed?
Yes,
Oh,
the
okay.
wrong version.
So,
But
so
I can
tell
still
us
tell you
about
about the
Yeah.
experience.
Okay, good.
Yes. So actually,
Is it on here?
Is it on? No,
The original.
It's not.
No, okay.
No.
That's what you added.
Yes, that's what I added.
All right, I got that. That's what you did.
Well, actually,
It-
let me think about how Skylar thinks. No, it didn't print. So strange.
Yeah, because everything else is
Yeah.
campaigns and stuff.
It looks like it's a whole page that didn't print.
Oh, maybe
That's
you're
what
just
it is.
missing a page.
Yeah, the page did not
yeah,
print,
okay, okay.
and they all collated and printed the same way.
So tell us a little bit about yourself first, Scott.
Okay.
You know, and then kind of get into your presentation, who you are. Tell us a
Okay.
little bit about who you are.
So I'm Skylar Williams. I've lived in New Orleans for more than the last 10 years. I came back after Katrina. I'm from Franklin, Louisiana, which is like a very small dot on the map in Southwest Louisiana. Both of my parents were educators. I went to Loyola University for my undergraduate degree. I went to George Washington University for a master's in strategic public relations. As I mentioned before, I started right out of school interning with the public relations agency, which was Devaney Communications. Also did work with Loyola and Alumni Affairs. From there, out of school, I immediately was like thrust into government affairs, working with economic development after Katrina, which is why I say thrust, because I came in at a time when that was the most important thing that was happening after Katrina, and then Rita, and everyone being displaced and getting like a crash course in international media and PR, which was a really great experience. I was homesick, so I wanted to come back to New Orleans. I got an offer for a position with Cox Media, and I did not know very much about media when I got the job offer, which I always think is kind of ironic because it's the thing that I've done in my experience that I've enjoyed the most. So I went to Cox Media and Cable. I started as an assistant, worked my way up to a coordinator, and then I made the transition to Clear Channel, which is now out of
Back up right there,
Mhm.
I don't know what that is. I'm not familiar, I'm not the media person, so
Okay.
you gotta tell me what that is at Cox.
Okay,
What-
so
what does that person do?
So Cox Cable has cable channels,
Right.
and they have a media company that used to be known as Cable Rep, and they sell the advertising space on your cable channels.
Oh, okay.
Now they sell local inventory for commercial time. The networks also have their own inventory, that they're able to sell. So I got a position there working as a coordinator, which is like a glorified sales assistant. So I handle traffic. Traffic and media is your commercials, or the actual timing of what breaks I have and what time my commercials can air and how long they need to be, and those types of technical things. I handle billing. And then they had a new position created where I became a consultant, which was basically like an inside salesperson supporting an outside salesperson, which other people call account executives. So at Cox, I supported the sales efforts to sell local television commercial inventory, and then once we moved into the digital space to also sell those things as well.
Okay, so, and I apologize because I'm the dumb guy in the room on this stuff especially. So if I look at a Cox station, they never have dead times, so all of their times are sold, right?
Yes.
So if they're all sold, you sold them all, or you and your team sold them all?
No. Do you want to?
It's a split of inventory between the networks. So TNT nationally sells a portion of it, and then the local team has a allocation.
So when Morris Bart is on, that's
He
local
bought it
guys.
through the local, through Scott.
When it's Coca-Cola,
They bought it through, likely through national.
Sometimes, yes. Sometimes
Right.
national.
so you're doing the
sometimes we
Morris
get local
Bart
space.
sale, for example, or something like
Yes,
that?
we do but we also would handle long form advertising. We work with a lot of companies, like if you're up late at night and you see those 30-second commercials for random products, or if you see
30-minute ones?
Yeah.
30-second or 30-minute.
Okay.
So because all the inventory is sold, so we would do long form, we would
Yeah,
do
right,
what we
yeah.
call direct
Yeah,
response.
yeah.
You know,
Okay.
we managed all the inventory that we were allowed. So even those ads, a lot of times are local as well.
Okay.
Yeah, and there are instances where national brands will not work with a national arm, they'll work with a local arm because they don't get better rates, they'll get local rates versus national rates. So if Coca-Cola says, we want to be in these 10 cities, their agency may say, instead of going to the national arm, let's go to the local reps in those 10 cities, which probably get better value.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
So from there, I went to Clear Channel, mostly because I felt like it was a good opportunity for me to kind of spread my wings, and I always wanted to get into radio because when you listen to radio, it just always sounds like they're having a blast on the air. You know, if they're on site or whatever, it just sounds like they're having fun. So I went in there. I really liked the team. It was a good time for me to go there. And so I started there in the end of 2014, I believe. And so I've been there ever since. So since I've been with iHeart, we've gone from Clear Channel to iHeart. We've had some restructuring and those types of things, but I've been there since 2014.
And tell us what you're doing.
I am a senior account executive at iHeartMedia. So that means that I handle everything from prospecting the business on the street, like if I took you through the life of a sale, you know, where I see I see your card at a chamber meeting, and then I go through and I do my research to find out where you're located, where your clients are, might pass by, get you on the phone, you know, I establish a relationship with you, do a client's needs analysis to see what exactly is it that you need, and then I go back to my portfolio of products and I figure out what I can do to give you a solution. Now, as a senior account executive, that means a few different things. It means that the accounts that I handle have a higher revenue potential. A lot of them are accounts that are managed by national agencies or they're corporate accounts. And it also means that there's more pressure on me. My budgets are much higher, you know, than someone just starting out. I do work 100%, you know, based on commission, which is different than, you know, someone that's just starting out. You know, they help them more. And
That's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
The senior person is the person that's on 100% commission versus the person that hasn't proven himself.
Right.
That's
That's very interesting.
philosophically interesting.
Yeah.
But you get those corporate accounts, right? I mean, they assign
She's
those
the
accounts
elephant.
to you.
no, actually they in some instances, right? I mean, if there's an account that's open and I've proven myself, which is exactly what my experience has been with my sales manager, I came in with some relationships from other places. So there were some accounts that I worked with that I couldn't have when I got there, but she knew that I had managed to maintain those relationships. So she did give me a couple of things that she was kind of like, well, babysit this and let's see how you do with that. Let's see if you can grow it. Let's see if they like you. You know, let's see if you're being effective with them. And once I kind of cut my teeth on those, there were some larger accounts that she passed on to me, for example, like Pepsi, like someone left, I got PepsiCo. But then there are other accounts that I just went out and got myself. Most of my book of businesses are things that I cold called, especially if they're corporate accounts, things that I just dug on the internet until I could figure out who was the appropriate person, looking at research, looking at social media to figure out how I could get in here and just being persistent to getting in there. And they started out very small, you know, and I grew them. One of the accounts I have in here, Chip Forstall, it's not a corporate account, it's a local account, but I mean, I grew it from $5,000, you know, on the books when I first got it the first year. Per year. That was my buy for the year, which is not very much at all. To 2 years later, you know, I had grown that account to almost $200,000 annually. You know, so some of it are things that there's budget built in, and we're just submitting avails, and it's kind of what we call in the industry transactional business. And a lot of my accounts are things that I directly affect revenue, local direct, where I am presenting things to you to help your business grow, and as you grow, I grow with you, you know, and our relationship grows.
So, Skylar, and because of your current relationship in radio sales, is there anything in your agreement that you have now that would sort of limit what you could do as the general manager of WBOK? And we wouldn't want some kind of, you know, first thing all of a sudden we get sued by iHeartMedia.
Right.
Because
So to my knowledge, no. We do have a non-compete that we sign going from position to position. So if I'm going from a salesperson with iHeart to a salesperson at Cumulus, there are certain accounts that usually management will meet and say,
management of the two companies?
yes, they'll meet and they'll work out an agreement like that says, okay, you can't call on these people here, but it's okay if you call on these here.
Okay.
It's different when you go into a different position because you're not acting in the same capacity, so it's not necessarily considered poaching.
Okay.
So
In your agreement, it says that in the agreement?
yeah, so it has it's a standard non-compete
Okay.
that says that I'm not supposed to basically poach from my account list and take it on, but everything is at the review of management. So usually what happens is when they when you turn in your resignation, they go through what you can do and what you can't do. They'll get with legal. Usually they work out something that's amicable so that you can still work.
Okay. So it would be our attorney would meet with their attorney? If we
Yeah.
hired you, it'd be our attorney would meet with their attorney?
Sometimes it doesn't even get to that point. Sometimes it's just like I would just speak to my market president, which is the same thing as a GM,
Uh-huh.
and have the conversation with her to see what parts of this do you plan to enforce or not. So usually it's worked out that way.
Skylar, from your time in the industry and at iHeart, does iHeart view WBOK as a competitor?
No. And that was going to be my second point. WBOK is not considered, like, if I were going to Intercom, which has WWL, those are direct competitors in terms of revenue and share of market and all those types of things. WBOK is not truly a competitor. We don't look at you guys as, like, we're not trying to shift share from WBOK to iHeart because it's pretty much like apples and oranges.
So it's likely that they probably wouldn't try to enforce any of it from your experience there.
Correct.
That's,
So you could go after Chip Forstall and bring him to WBOK.
Yes.
and what would likely happen is there's, I don't think iHeart feels threatened that he's gonna move that full $200K
Exactly.
from iHeart.
The budget is
But
smaller.
we would be able to begin getting some revenue from some of
Right.
those accounts.
And usually what would happen, like as a general manager or a sales manager, if you did have a team, like a 1-2 salespeople, they would call the account directly. So the business transaction is actually happening with the salesperson and the client, not necessarily me and the client.
Mhm, mhm. Okay, understood. Go ahead, Jeff.
You can finish your, were you
Did
finished
you
with your
do your
experience?
overview? of
Yes.
where you-
That's everything?
You
Okay.
wanna talk about some of your campaign work?
Okay.
Oh, yes, so I did, I worked on, our mayor's campaign for,
That's what this type of campaign. We've heard about that campaign.
oh, okay, yeah, that's on my resume, but we can move into this.
No, you could finish with the LaToya.
With LaToya?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I started working on LaToya's campaign because I reached out to Karen Carvin, Shackett, and just was like, hey, I've been taking these classes. I just finished this stuff. I'm really interested in getting back into government and political arena. And I had done the first Black Campaign School. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Collective PAC. They do a lot of work with Angela Rye, and they're all over. They're doing some stuff with Hillary, but I had gone to their candidate training, so I just want to put everything that I had learned into practice. So I ended up
thinking about being a candidate?
No, I wasn't thinking about being a candidate. I really wanted to just get
Work
more,
on campaigns.
yeah, to
okay.
run
And
campaigns.
have you more position when you're pitching
Exactly.
campaigns. Yeah.
And to be able to affect more of those dollars, to be at the table where I needed to be so I could get that money to come to me, in my capacity at iHeart.
Okay.
So I spoke with Karen, and she was kind enough to say, we'll find a place for you on the team. So I kind of started as a floater and working with she and Bill, and then Bill Russell. And from doing that, I ended up doing the social media, digital, doing some PR, some interview placement, those types of things. I started out supposed to be handling the press conferences, but then we had the flood, the August floods, and everything went haywire. So I ended up, working with her digital media director to do organic content and those types of things.
Which
for the campaign.
was?
Kyrie.
I'm sorry, I just kicked you.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah.
Were you doing her social? Were you doing digital display, digital
I was
content?
doing her social,
Okay.
her social content.
Okay. Got it. Right. So,
Were you working much with her, or
Yeah,
you
I
were?
was that's why I saw you so much. I was shadowing her every forum she had, everything that she had, we had to be there.
So you'd be there as support. I thought you just was a support person, but
We would film.
y'all was putting the content. she
Yeah, so
worked
when you
with
would see the tripods up, we would be doing, we would have a Facebook Live, an Instagram Live going, we would be doing live tweeting, we would be taking live photo, trying
Damn,
to
Jeff, I
create
didn't get a chance.
I
man.
know, right?
story.
It's talent killers.
Depending on where it was, we would make sure that she had the opportunity to speak with, like if it was at a university, students, who were with the university publication, anything like that. We would definitely make sure that we were on Twitter and in our comments on Facebook, so that we could answer any questions. Sometimes people have trolls, we call them trolls, that come and they just comment on things and challenge everything that's being said, so we would make sure we had eyes on that so that we could respond quickly. So it really was a lot like the way that we manage our, when I say our, iHeart's, our direct business campaigns, where we offer services where we can go in and basically like do internet monitoring for tone to see what people are saying about your business, if they have complaints and things like that.
This is another line of business, or this is what you're
It's
existing
act-
advertising?
Yeah, it's one of the things that we offer at iHeart, but the approach that we took for managing Latoya's social media and engagement was similar to that, like how you would just manage your footprint on your online, like on Yelp or, you know, another type of platform.
So, you wanna continue this, cause I have some questions, that might shift gears, I don't know.
You can ask me.
So, you know, I looked at your resume, we talked, we had dinner, and I get a good sense that you have great sales experience. I don't have much doubt that you could produce income, but I wanna ask you, do you think there's gonna be a difference in selling for WBOK versus iHeart, and what that difference would be? And then talk about how your day might be structured in terms of sales versus radio station responsibilities.
Okay.
So,
Well, to answer the first part of your question, I definitely think it'll be different to sell iHeart versus WBOK, for the simple fact that iHeart is a brand that's so big, in a sense, it sells itself. It's the largest media company in the country. They have so many assets. So a lot of times we get referrals, especially in this market. We have the largest station pretty much in the state. So people are calling us. I think that is also true for WBOK because it's a heritage station and it's been in the market for such a long time, and it has a lot of credibility with its audience. But the people calling, I think, for my iHeart stations are more diverse in terms of their age, you know, perhaps their income, the types of businesses they may have, and their budgets. Whereas I think that on WBOK, it's been a very niche audience. It's definitely a staple, you know, for anything political, anything, I think, educational. If you're looking to have long format programming, like a block program, like a 30-minute or an hour-long program, I think that, you know, that's a place where you can be. I'm not sure because of the size of the station and the reporting that is not, there are certain industry reports that we get in media in general, and a few of those WBOK does not report. They don't subscribe to the service, so they don't come up. So I think that there are a number of the businesses that I deal with, or the people that are, the inbound calls that are coming in, may not be there for WBOK. But I also think that that's an opportunity, because once you create the vision and start to put that into motion of what it is, and then you market it so that people know it's there, then those things, you know, should start to come as well. But I do definitely think it'll be different on that level. I also think it'll be different in terms of infrastructure, because right now, if I want to know how much is Ashley Furniture spending statewide with every radio station, you know, from 2018 to year-to-date 2019, I just go into a tool and type in my parameters, and a neat little report is going to pull up. I'm not certain if WBOK has those types of systems in place. So
it doesn't.
So I would think that would be different as well, just in terms of the resources that you have working for a very large company.
So how would you create a sale for Ashley at WBOK without that information that you had at iHeart?
Well, I would have to rely on the relationship for sure. And I think I would also have to go into that realistically, knowing that there are some companies that are only going to buy on ratings and cost per point. A new radio station is not going to have ratings for the first year, you know, that they're in operation. So if Ashley Furniture sends me a mail and says, hey, I'm trying to get a $38 cost per point for adults 18 to 49, I need to hit I know that there's no way that I'm going to be able to give you what you need to show to your boss to get it. So the only thing I can rely on then is the quality of my content and my relationship with that buyer.
So that would be it. So the only way Ashley would buy would be because you know them and because we have good programming. That would be it.
I think in the first 6 months, yes. Because large companies like that have these hundreds of thousands of dollars, they truly do buy just based on data. And so if you don't have the data and you're not reporting the data or you're not being measured, there's no way for them to make the case that this makes sense to put this money here and I'm gonna get a return on my investment.
Right.
But I think, for example, now if you were to say a Morris Bart or a St. Thomas Community Health Center that does have budget, it may not be $400,000 annually, it may be $40,000 annually. But I know that I can have that conversation, and based on your goals and what I have here, we can mesh, and I should be able to affect some of that money coming to me. So I think it's just a totally different selling approach, but it's not very different from how I would sell my smaller stations, like my gospel station at iHeart, or my AM sports station. That again, like, they don't show up in the ratings. We can give you qualitative, right? But just in terms of just numbers and penetration in the market, I'm not going to be able to provide it that way. But I can create a story, a narrative that makes it make sense for you and make it a more emotional relationship driven by.
Let me drill down a little bit more on this.
Okay.
So, most of your day now is consumed with sales. That's all you do, right?
Yes and no. So, yes, my day is consumed with sales because I'm a salesperson and I always have to be chasing my carrot. But a lot of my day also is spent on, it's almost like project management. Because it's not like I'm not one and done. You sign with me, we're done. I don't talk to you again for 3 months.
Yeah.
I have to constantly be talking to people all day long. I have to not just talk to my clients, but I'm managing things up and down my building. I have to work with programming upstairs to get things scheduled, whether that's interviews, whether that's my endorsements, whether I'm giving you direction about, this is the goal of this campaign, these are my new copy points, this is how I need you to deliver this, whether I'm in production, cutting spots, listening to spots, getting things edited, those types of things, whether I'm working with my media buyers or people's assistants trying to get stuff approved, or just answering questions, whether it's working with billing, whether it's working with management and looking at my budget to see how close I am, or looking at my pacing. So my day is filled with a lot of different.
So sales related stuff, right? You sell to Morris Bart and all of the stuff that goes to getting his commercial on air, you deal with.
Yes.
So that pretty much takes up all of your time, or most of your time, not all of it, most of your time.
I guess I'm not really, I hear you, and I guess yes, but that is the business of radio, which
Okay.
everyone is doing, from a salesperson to a manager to, your program directors to your jocks. Like, we're all doing all of those things all day long because those are the things that keep the business going efficiently.
Got it. So I'm just trying to think a little bit about how it's going to be different if you were the GM at WBOK versus your current position.
Right.
So at WBOK, but before I go there, I'll say the sales process may be even more cumbersome because now, if it's like Morris Bart, you have to do cold calling based upon, you're coming from WBOK and establishing rapport, all the kinds of things that go into making a sale. And then, so the sale takes more time now. And then at WBOK, you may also be reporting to yourself in terms of going to management, because you'll be management. And I'm wondering if there's enough time in the day for you or any person, not you, but any person to do both sales and management at the station.
I mean, you mean solely? I wouldn't.
Yes.
I wouldn't think that would be. I wouldn't put that on any one person if you really want to see growth in within the year, because as a general manager, your management does take on the sale, right? Because they're driving those sales efforts. But if I have to do everything in the building, then there's no time for me to really be effective at any one thing, because my time is over here. So my question actually to you is gonna be, I think the change in my day depends on the personnel that are in that building. So if I have to be operations as well as be programming and production, then, you know, that takes up a lot of time. That may not leave time for me to cold call. But if I have, like I know we kind of talk about interns, like if I have 4 salespeople or people that are dedicated to doing sales, that I can train and say, okay, now you guys go out and this is your task for the day, you know, like to delegate those things, then it should be a better workflow. I don't think that wearing every single hat, there would be a lot of time to get everything done every day.
So,
If I may.
good, yeah, good.
So we have some ideas in a plan about an org chart, but the GM is at the top of that org chart, and we want them to influence everything we do going forward. If you were the GM, what would be the ideal org chart that you would need to help us achieve the goals that we give you?
That is better.
Okay, can you tell me the goals? Or give me an idea of the goals?
Our year 1 revenue goal is about $700,000
Okay,
over 12 months cycle. So whenever it's day 1 of the start, so in the first 12 months, a $700,000 revenue goal.
okay. And then what infrastructure is in place already in terms of like, so I guess what I'm asking is like in terms of processes, like what are the things that are currently in place that would be retaining for whenever you guys take over?
I think you'd be helping determine what we keep and what we.
And the reason I
And-
ask that is because if you have a computer system that's doing trafficking, then I wouldn't say I need 5 traffic assistants. But if there's no person there to actually, like if there's no computer that's actually gonna automatically cue things to run, and I have to have somebody like pushing commercials, and that's someone that I would add to my org chart. You understand what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
definitely.
You know, Jeff?
I do,
You
yeah.
have that already?
There's a person that
There's a
pushes.
person that
Or that they do.
Well, there's a combination of computer and person, but mostly it's person.
Okay.
For the live shows, and then on the current
Recorded
shows,
shows, they
recorded
just-
shows,
they
they
just-
just turn on the tape and go.
Okay. What are the recorded shows? Those are the blocks. The
Yeah,
long-
well, like Cheryl Underwood. and
Syndicated.
Syndicate
Okay,
stuff,
the
right,
syndicated
right.
stuff. Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha.
So.
Yeah, but Skylar's gonna tell us about her vision of her
Yeah.
org
Yeah,
chart.
I'm sorry.
Well, I would, to me, the 3 most important, or I guess the 4 most important positions would be a general manager, an engineer, a programming director that can also do production, and a traffic person that can also be an assistant. In terms of
I'm sorry, engineer,
PD.
Engineer,
Traffic.
PD,
a
PD
PD
slash
that can also do
producer.
production, because some PDs don't. But yeah, PD that can also do production.
you said a third one?
Traffic slash
So
admin.
Traffic,
And then the GM.
traffic and admin. And then is there already like a business office in place?
And
or-
these 4 that you've named are full-time. And then what else would you need? And then let me know if you
Yeah, the
envision these
back office,
roles.
the business, all of that stuff.
And do you envision these roles being full-time, part-time, and interns?
I think that, so in terms of like finance, and if there's a finance person or
Right.
business person,
All that's taken care of.
okay, that's,
Yeah.
you don't have to hire that.
Right.
I would like a dedicated sales assistant, because that helps with salespeople in terms of getting on the street. Like when you're asking somebody for a lot of money, you need them to look at something that looks like they should give you a lot of money.
Right, like
And-
nice decks.
Yes, and
things
if you
like
want your salespeople to sell, you have to give them the time
that.
to
Tools.
sell. And so you need to have somebody to handle all of that other stuff that they, really need to be out on the street and not in the office doing. So I would like an assistant,
Mhm.
a sales assistant. And then to start with at least having like 2 to 3 dedicated salespeople.
And those people would be salary plus commission, or?
It depends on in my mind, it depends on the level of experience. If you get somebody that has no experience that's straight off the street, they're usually more willing to, what's standard in the industry is you give someone a guarantee. You don't have to give somebody a salary necessarily for a year, but you need to give them at least 3 months where I'm paying you, even if it's a small amount, it's a livable wage.
What would that amount be?
It's a revenue guarantee, so if they meet that amount in commissions, you don't have to pay them.
Right.
But we're guaranteeing you're gonna make
$2 grand a month?
$3 grand a month, $2 grand.
Yeah, like
Three?
2 to 3 grand.
Okay.
But if their sales meets that,
Right, and then that's it, like, well, you know, I mean, that's the way to incentivize people as well. If you say, you know, well, this is what I'm paying you, but if you get to this number, I'll actually pay you out, this percentage would get you more than what you would have made, you know, in the month. But so that they have a buy-in, so that they can be focused, because if you're worried about your personal money, your personal finances, it's really hard to be focused, you know, on selling, which is really, really important.
Got it.
So those are the things just off the top of my head I would think would, like bare bones.
So 6 people? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 people.
And I think like assistants can be like part-time, as long as they're there early in the morning, because usually the bulk of business is getting done between the hours of like 7:30 and 1 o'clock. So as long as they're, you know, there
I know what you're thinking
for
already.
those times, you know,
Right.
I think that would be key. I would see like that being able to be someone who, I don't want to say intern, because sometimes interns don't have the, students don't always have the focus and the detail orientedness, if that's a word, that you need when you have to do some of the reporting and those types of things. But, I mean, I would see that being someone that, it's not a high paying position, you know.
What would the GM's role be in this structure that you just laid out?
Well, I think that they are, you know, they are the leader. They're the operations manager, director. They lead everything. They lead sales efforts. They make sure that, you know, programming is doing their part, right? Because I stutter when I say that, because in this business, it's like when you're programming and your sales department, like we get along very well, but it's very much like this, where you don't really want to get into anybody's wheelhouse, because you let the creatives do what the creatives do and we do what we do. But it is important that I think the GM makes sure that the content that programming is creating is something that is sellable. Like that's the synergy, right? And so even though I may not be leading the programming efforts, I still need to make sure that it meets the vision of the company, and that it is something that is marketable and sellable and valuable, you know, that we can put out on the streets. They also handle budgeting, you know, looking at what all is in the market and determining what is a realistic number that we can bring into this building. Pushing relationships forward in the market, you know, being the front person for the brand to make sure that they're constantly in front of people trying to make deals, handling trade deals, negotiating trade deals, making sure that the sales team is really and truly set up to succeed, right? So to make sure that they are on top of what they need to do and have good habits. So the GM is at the top, and to me, it's a trickle-down effect. Like you're very much involved in everything that's going on. I think the important thing is to allow people to do what they do and to give them the tools and the support that they need to flourish, right? But still to be very much involved in every piece of the business to make sure that everything is going as it should go, and at the end of the day, everybody's, you know, getting a return on whatever time and money, you know, they put into the project.
One question about, you said lead sales efforts. You
Mhm.
mean, what do you mean by that?
Setting budgets, setting expectations in terms of how many appointments you need to be having a day, how much billing, you know, I expect to see every week. Giving you best practices so that you actually teaching people, because people come in, they don't really know how to sell, you know, teaching them, giving them industry knowledge, coaching them, doing ride-alongs or one-on-ones, so that they understand that it's really a science to selling media, and to get them to be highly qualified, you know, media experts. So leading morale, you know, making sure that your team is amped up and ready to go and excited to tackle the day and you know, want to hit these numbers, you know what I mean? So whether you're leading it with a sales team or there was another manager there, but just to set the tangible goals in terms of revenue, you know, set the intangible goals in terms of feelings and, enthusiasm and those types of things, and to also set the standard of not just closing business, but making sure that bills are paid, you know, and those types of things, and just establishing best practices.
So I got a bunch of questions.
Go.
And you can tell me if I should do them one at a time or give you all of them and let you attack them, but I'll start with the management experience. Didn't see a lot of that on here. And so I wanted to talk about what your management philosophy is, if there is managerial experience. And if you know, if it is, kind of explain what that was involved. I also want to stay on that topic, and I'll kind of make it a two-part question, is we've talked a little bit about here of having our two senior positions to hire, is a general manager, and we call it a program director. That's just the title that I guess we've been using. Should that person, if in a startup mode initially, should the general manager be bogged down with getting all of the program director stuff done? Or should the program director sort of, technically, we always vision the general manager reporting to the owners, and that's it. But should it be a two-headed ownership, two heads reporting to the owner? One is the inside programming stuff, and the other be the general manager who's really worried about most of the outside stuff? Or is that general manager, in your view, that buck stops with him? And if that's the case, then talk a little bit about your ability to lead as the chief executive of this organization that the four of us are on. Sorry for the long-winded question.
I'm gonna start with
And
your
I got
second.
more.
Sure. I'm gonna start with your second question first.
Okay, good.
Because I think just by definition, a GM is the buck stops with him. You know what I mean? Like they are not like this with anybody.
Mhm.
It's this. Now I think that in my experience with directors and market presidents and general managers that have been very, very effective, and that have been pleasures to work with, they allow people to do what they do best. I respect that I don't do programming. I cannot come in and sit at, I can look at it, you know, I know how NextGen works or whatever software, and I can look at it and I can say, okay, I see that this should be here, or I can listen, you know, I have a good ear, I can listen to the station and hear when things are off, or I can recommend content, but that is not my area. And the person that I would hope to work with, whether I hire them or you hire them, would be someone that is more than capable of doing that, and that probably wouldn't want me stepping in and saying, this is what you need to do. But at the same time, there's the respect there that's like, well, I'm gonna do my best to do what I do and make sure you're fully aware of all of this stuff, but I know that you respect me enough to let me do what I do and not really get in the way of things. And to me, that's the way the relationship, as I've seen it in my experience, works best.
Good.
Did I answer all your questions?
Well, talk about your experience.
Manager, your philosophy.
Your experience and your
Okay.
philosophy.
So
A
my
little bit of your
manage-
philosophy is what's in
Okay.
it.
So my management experience at iHeart, I had the role of a digital strategist, which is now called a digital engineer, which is basically a digital sales manager. And they did something that companies often do when they're trying to save money. When you have someone that's already got a good thing going, instead of paying you a salary, I'm going to incentivize you with a really big bonus. And as long as you can get your team to drink the Kool-Aid and do what we need them to do, then you'll get to this bonus. So I was put into that position. I was trained. I had a sales staff at the time of 14 people.
This is iHeart.
This was at iHeart about two years ago. And I was not their direct manager, but they had a digital budget from me that they were responsible for hitting. And what I found going into that is that my management style is, I went into it being a visionary, thinking that I could have these lofty ideas and just trust my team that I knew as a peer to just do what I asked them to do, because like it makes sense, right? Like if we make more commission, and it just failed miserably. Like they were like, oh yeah, we're gonna do this, And nobody would go and nobody was doing their trainings because they didn't know that I actually had like management rights. So I could see in the system who went in and did the training and how much time you spent on it. I could see, you know, whenever you put orders in, I had like digital revenue lines, you know, I'm tracking it because I'm getting these reports. And I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna get to do this because media people stay in the business for a really long time. They bounce around from place to place. Some of the people I worked with that were my peers had been doing what they did for 30 years. By comparison, I think at the time I'd been in the business maybe 7. So, you know, I didn't have the buy-in. And I remember being very frustrated because I said to my boss at the time, I was like, but I'm not really their manager and I got all this stuff that I need to do. And he said, you know, you have to take ownership of it because you are their manager. You're the only person that understands this. And it's on you now to get them to conform, basically. They didn't give me any management training classes. They didn't say this is how you get people to do. So I had to go to the drawing board and sit down and figure out a way for me to reach my peers, who were still my peers, and get them to do what I wanted them to do, like I was their sales manager, even though I knew that they didn't look at me that way, but get them to see me look at them that way. From that experience, I learned that I'm more of a transformational, that's my approach. Because I had to basically humble myself and then build myself up to be the person that you didn't really want to like, to be the needling person that's going to ask you this stuff that I know as your peer that we always skirt around and we kind of BS about it, and we know all those tricks to not really get caught not doing what we're supposed to do. And I had to call them out on it, you know, and just be very clear that we all have the same goal. So that was my first experience in a management sphere, and I was like, I never want to do this again. Because I didn't like it. Like, I didn't like being the person that made people mad at me. Yeah, always. And being the person in meetings, because what I figured out, and I guess the reason I was telling that story is because knowing my team gave me the ability to empower myself to use what I knew about them to my advantage as a member of management, because I knew how to point out where they weren't doing what they were supposed to do without offending them or alienating them or really making them feel like I was picking on them. Because sometimes people don't do stuff because they don't understand how to do it. And so I started, basically I had to create a calendar, and so every week I would do one-on-ones, you know, with my team in groups, because one-on-ones, just one-on-one would not work. Having like 3 people together, like one person who had like no knowledge of what an impression was versus someone who's a little more savvy, seemed to work better because they could kind of feed off each other and help each other and not waste time asking, you know, silly questions, or not silly questions, but impertinent questions. But so what I ended up doing with that situation is creating a plan that was not individualized. It was a plan for everyone as a collective on my team, setting clear revenue goals for them, and then working with them in small groups that felt like one-on-ones, and basically being like, I'm here with you. I'm in these trenches with you. None of us want to do this, but we got to do it. And this seems to be the best way for us to do it. And I see that this is your strong suit. So you should probably go at it like this. And then once you figure out how to do it this way, then we can incorporate other things. But I'm going to go to, you know, so I would go to every appointment with them. So I'm giving that example because that was my management failure, right? Because I was investing so much time in this management role that wasn't really a management role, and my sales were suffering because I was giving so much of myself to my teammates, which was great because our digital numbers were growing, you know, so that was successful. We did see a 30% increase from the time I started in March until December of that year, but my sales were just